What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to break down the Week 1 top 24 running back rankings. Each week, we'll break down usage trends and who you should be starting and sitting over another. Yesterday, Danny brought you wide receivers. Me and him are going to flip-flop each week depending on which position we're doing. If you guys want access to our full rankings, of course, they are available on patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange or free with a new underdog sign up using code FSE. Both links down below in the comments section. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, as we've been talking about, we have a special new promotion for those of you guys that are DFS players, those of you guys that do prop bets. EstablishTheRun.com, we've partnered with them. They create high-quality DFS and prop betting content over here at FSE. We don't usually focus on those types of things. The founders, Adam Levitan and Evan Silva, are longtime fantasy experts. I've been following their work for years since I was a teenager. They've been in the fantasy game for a long time, and these guys are the most serious DFS guys around. They have a team of people creating weekly projections, ownership projections, even analyzing things like offensive and defensive line matchups each week. So you can really analyze week-to-week matchups and get the edge over your league mates or over the field in DFS competition. And you can use promo code FSE right now to get 10% off of any of their packages. So you can try out a week and try their DFS package. You can try out their prop betting package, or you can purchase the whole season ahead of time and save some money in the long run to get access to their content. For using the promo code FSE, we, of course, are very thankful. And make sure to check out their YouTube channel as well. Head on over to EstablishTheRun.com and use code FSE for 10% off, as I mentioned. So let's get right into the top 24 running backs. As you guys know, I tweet out matchup charts every single week. I'll leave this on the screen throughout the whole video so you guys can make reference to it as I talk about each running back. If you guys want the full matchup chart, follow me over on Twitter at FootballStock. It's on the screen right now. And I will tweet these out every, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for both the wide receiver and the running back position as well. You guys can see some of the best matchup this week are, the Ravens running backs, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, and then some of the more tougher matchups are the Falcons running backs. Obviously, we saw last night the Rams running backs did not have a fun time. And then also the Browns running back, Saquon Barkley, etc. So what I'm going to do in this video, last year we went through starts and sits, and we went through every game and talked about each player. But in this video, what I'm going to do is go through 8 running backs at a time. The top guys I will speed through because you're definitely going to be starting those players. But the rest of the guys I will talk about more in depth because usage and trends and all that kind of stuff is important. And as we get through the season, I will also make sure to break down other backfields as well outside of the top 24 running backs that might be relevant. But in week 1, we don't have any usage to go off of. So I'm just going to be talking about the top 24 running backs for the time being. So you guys can see running backs 1 to 8 on the screen right now. Jonathan Taylor is at the top of the list. He is Jonathan Taylor, of course. That is why he is there. He averages 24.27 PPR points per game in the 4 career games he's played against the Houston Texans. So I expect him to have a monster one in this one. The Colts should be winning this game. CMC at number 2. He's going to do his thing as long as this shin thing that he came up with on the injury report is not an issue. I expect Christian McCaffrey to run the ball, catch the ball, do Christian McCaffrey type of things as well. So those first 2 guys, pretty easy. Number 3, I have Austin Eckler, which is much higher than where ECR has him. And the reason I have him so high is because the game total for this game is 52.5 points. The Chargers and Raiders, we expect this game to have, a lot of high scoring potential, and Eckler has a chance to go absolutely bonkers in this one. So I like him as my RB3 this week. RB4 is Derrick Henry, also in a very solid spot as I broke down in the matchup chart. The Giants ranked dead last in rush defense DVOA last year, also pretty poor across the board against the running back position in general. So Derrick Henry probably in a good spot to be very efficient in this game. Number 5, we have Alvin Kamara, and he has been a headache for the Atlanta Falcons for years, so I have no qualms starting him as a top 5 running back this week. Dalvin Cook, who's been a notorious fade of mine this entire offseason at his mid-first round price tag, where a lot of you guys probably took him. I faded him so hard that my league mates faded him also. And if you guys know, I actually drafted him in my home league. I drafted him in the mid-second round because everybody in my league also faded him because I was fading him, and they all, listened to my content. So I'm excited to see what Dalvin Cook can do, because if I'm wrong about Dalvin Cook, right, I got a huge value on him because he fell to the mid-second round. Most people were ready to take him in the top 5, top 6, top 8 overall players. And if he's, great this year, then obviously that will be a huge, huge W for me. The fact that I went against my own advice and drafted the guy. So Dalvin Cook against the Packers should be a good one there. And then we have DeAndre Swift at RB7. Eagles should score a lot of points. DeAndre Swift and the Lions may need to play some catch up. The Eagles were brutal against pass catching running backs last year, and DeAndre Swift, we know, is going to contribute in the passing game tremendously. Number 8, we have Saquon Barkley, who has a bit of a tough matchup against the Tennessee Titans. They ranked very well against the run last year, and I expect this to be the case again this year, but I will trust Barkley's workload, especially the pass catching work he's going to get. Now, when it comes to these strength of schedule things that I'm talking about, I'm going off of last year's information, and obviously things changed. People, change teams, free agent signings happened and all that kind of stuff. So for the first couple of weeks of the season, we're not really going to know what defenses are good against what and what defenses aren't. So we're going off of last year's information and a little bit of common sense as well. So those were the fun ones. Those were the RB1s to 8. Obviously, if you guys have those guys, they're in your lineup no matter what. You weren't sitting any of them. And if you have multiple of those guys, you're well set up to be great this week. So let's go to RBs 9 to 16, which require a little bit more of a deciding factor. RB9 I have is James Conner, and I have him much higher than where ECR has him right now because I wasn't high on James Conner from a season-long perspective, but I expect him to get absolutely fed in this game. This game has an over-under of 53.5 points. The Chiefs and Cardinals, this is a very high-scoring matchup, a suspect run defense against the Kansas City Chiefs. I love the over on James Conner's carries, his fantasy points, and his rush yards. You can only pick one, of course, but if you guys want to hit the higher on those stat lines on underdogfantasy.com. You guys know, use promo code FSE when you sign up. Now that we're into the season, you guys can have a lot of fun with these pick'ems. Create your entries for those and have some fun winning some cash over there. Number 10, we have Joe Mixon, pretty much going to live in low-end RB1 territory all season because that's basically what he is. Steelers' run defense was bad down the stretch, but they are back healthy now. They had a lot of injuries down the stretch and why they were so bad against the run. So I expect this probably to be a good run defense this year. And this is probably going to be a touchdown or bust type of performance for Joe Mixon because he's probably not going to be very efficient. We know he's not going to get more than like 3-4 targets maximum in a game. So probably going to need to get into the end zone in this one, but he has a good chance to do that with the Bengals being big favorites in this game. Mitch Trubisky, his first game starting. I think the Steelers could probably struggle in this one. Number 11, speaking of the Steelers, is Najee Harris. He had a lot of targets against the Bengals last year. He had one game where he had like 15 receptions or some shit. I'll trust the workload here, but I'm not excited about Najee Harris from an efficiency standpoint. The Bengals run defense was pretty good last year, and I don't love the game script for Najee Harris and the Steelers. Number 12, we have Aaron Jones, and he's kind of like Joe Mixon because he is going to live in fringe RB1 territory all season. I'm really interested to see how many routes, how many targets, etc. that he's getting. This is a pretty exploitable matchup against the Vikings and a sneaky bet to be a high-scoring game, a shootout type of game. We've seen the Vikings and Packers go back and forth before. And I expect both of these defenses to be a little bit shaky early on in the season, but the Packers do have a great defense, and maybe they get ahead, mightily in this game, and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are pounding this one out, and they get a lot of touches that way. So I like Aaron Jones in this game as well. RB13 is Javonte Williams, and we won't get to see him until Monday when the Seahawks and Broncos play each other, but this Seahawks team is starting Geno fucking Smith, and they have 2 rookie offensive tackles, so I don't think the Broncos are going to have a very hard time winning this game. Even if the Broncos passing game takes a few games to gel and they're not necessarily firing on all cylinders, Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, maybe they take a few weeks. I think in the meantime, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon can control the game in this one, especially against a team that is pretty laughable, probably going to have a top 5 pick this year. So I think Javonte Williams could go absolutely bonkers in this game. Number 14, we have Leonard Fournette. I don't expect Leonard Fournette to be very effective on the ground, which dings him here because the Cowboys have a great run defense and the Bucs are starting 2 rookie offensive linemen. So I'm not anticipating a huge rushing day for Leonard Fournette. But his saving grace, as we know, is the fact that Tom Brady trusts him as a pass catcher. And also, this game has a 50.5 over-under. You guys know I will be at this game. Me and Danny will be in Arlington, Texas for Sunday Night Football. So I'm very, very excited to see what Leonard Fournette can do. Number 15, we have Travis Etienne, and I have him pretty high this week relative to ECR. James Robinson hasn't played in any preseason games. He wasn't on the field very much during training camp as well. And we saw Travis Etienne dominate with the ones during all of the preseason. And also, the Jags are probably one of the most, fresh teams in the league, I would say, because all of their starters played throughout the entire preseason. So they have probably the most reps under their belt of most of the teams that we're going to see. Plus, we saw last night Cam Akers coming off of 14 months removed from an Achilles injury, phased out of his offense, how do we think J-Rob's going to look after 9 months after an Achilles surgery? So I'm not expecting J-Rob to be heavily involved early on in the season. Travis Etienne should be the guy that is the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence in this Jaguars offense. Number 16, we have Josh Jacobs, and it's a similar case to Austin Eckler. 52.5-point over-under in this game against a run funnel Chargers defense. We don't know how the split is going to work with Josh Jacobs. We don't know if Zamir White's going to be heavily involved or Amir Abdullah is going to be heavily involved. I'm expecting Jacobs to be the early down guy, Abdullah to be the pass catching guy, but I expect him to be solid at the start of the year, especially because we have a rookie running back behind him. It's a new system. He's been around for a while with this team. And I think Jacobs has a good chance at scoring a touchdown in this game, given the high scoring point total that we have per Vegas. And I love his higher line on 11.55 fantasy points on Underdog as well, if you guys are looking to do some pick'ems this week. And then finally, let's get into RB 17 to 24 with a massive eyesore immediately at running back. And I will touch on Cam Akers towards the end because he locked in on my Fantasy Pros ranking as my RB 23. So once I get to him, I will break down everything that happened with him last night. But let's start with RB 17 in Nick Chubb. And he's also going to live in this range, RB2 range, mid RB2 each week. Carolina is a tough cookie against the run. They were really good against the run last year, one of the best in the league. And I think this game will probably go in favor of the Panthers. We have Jacoby Brissett, who in my opinion just sucks. He isn't a good quarterback. So I don't think the Browns are going to move the ball a ton on offense if the run defense matchup is as bad as I'm thinking it's going to be. So I think Nick Chubb probably gets phased out of this one. I think this is probably a Kareem Hunt game. Now we have RB 18, which is Antonio Gibson. In points per game last year, he finished about this range. So it makes sense that now with Brian Robinson on the mend, it's going to be just Antonio Gibson in his role from last year and J.D. McKissic in his role from last year. So I'm pretty high on Gibson this week. It's a pretty solid matchup, like I said, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I actually kind of like this game if you guys are playing DFS as stacking up this Jaguars-Washington game. I think it could be sneaky high scoring as well. RB 19, we have Elijah Mitchell, a guy who I think is a great start this week because the Bears lost a lot of pieces on their run defense. They lost Khalil Mack. They lost Akeem Hicks. Plus, the Niners are 7-point favorites in this game against a absolutely moribund Chicago Bears operation. I don't think they're going to be very good on offense. Therefore, I think the 49ers are going to possess the ball for a very long time. Therefore, I think that the Elijah Mitchell train will probably get a lot of carries in the first start, really, of Trey Lance's career. I think they're going to rely on their running game. So Elijah Mitchell, I really like as RB19 this week. Rashad Penny, a guy that I have, again, well above consensus. I have him at 20 right now. It's, quote, unclear if Kenneth Walker is going to play on Monday night. I don't think he's going to end up playing. So if Rashad Penny is the lone running back there, I'll take him as a fringe top 20 guy. And even though I think this, game script won't be great, I don't think that the Seahawks are going to win this game or maybe even keep it close. But I do expect him to have a big workload regardless. And he looked good enough last year to give him the benefit of the doubt against this, Broncos defense. Plus, who knows? Maybe this game is closer than we think. Wild shit happens in week one. So I like Rashad Penny this week as well. Number 21, we have Ezekiel Elliott. I had to put him somewhere. He's totally meh. He could fall into the end zone in a high-scoring game, which is definitely how he's going to get there if he does. But I don't think he's going to be very efficient against the Buccaneers run defense. We saw him, run a lot of routes last year, so maybe he's used in the receiving game as well. So we'll see what happens with Ezekiel Elliott, but I do think he's probably a fine, low-end RB2 start this week. A.J. Dillon, who I have at 22, another guy who is just going to live in back-end RB2 territory for me this entire season, unless, of course, something happens to Aaron Jones. But he needs to score a touchdown pretty much every week in order to be anything more than like an efficient between the tackles runner, because I don't expect him to get, a ton of receiving work. He might get some, but who knows? Maybe this Packers operation just runs their entire offense through these two running backs, especially at the beginning of the season while, their two rookie receivers get their legs under them and kind of thing like that. But I do think they're going to have to put up points in this game. I don't think they're just going to boat race the Vikings. So this might be more of an Aaron Jones game than it is an A.J. Dillon game. Now, number 23, Cam Akers, who got locked in here last night. I have to talk about his performance because obviously it was something that was not good for my personal brand because I was somebody that was hyping up Cam Akers this year. But as the offseason went along, I started to cool down on Cam Akers a little bit. But obviously this was an awful outcome for Cam Akers. If you guys drafted him in round 3 and round 4, wherever you drafted him, the writing was on the wall for Cam Akers to probably get off to a slow start, coming off of a soft tissue injury that he sustained probably at some point during the preseason. It sounds like Darrell Henderson was a few days ahead of him because he was also dealing with a soft tissue injury. And maybe that was the result of what happened last night, right? Darrell Henderson was just more healthy, and that's why he got 82% of the snaps, 18 opportunities, and it looked like he was the lead back in this backfield. But why I still have some hope for Cam Akers, and don't get it twisted, this is not take lock. I am definitely concerned. for Cam Akers. I'm not ignoring what happened last night. It definitely is concerning. But why I have some hope is, number one, Darrell Henderson looked extremely average, because he is. He's not a very good running back. So if Cam Akers is healthy and he is able to, prove that in practice, in games, then I think eventually he can win this job. And number two is basically this ramp up coming off of the soft tissue injury that we saw. Maybe that was just a health thing, right? Maybe it wasn't, oh, Darrell Henderson's our starter because Cam Akers isn't healthy. Maybe it was just, hey, the guy just got back to practice. We're not going to give him a huge workload right away. We can use Henderson. He's more healthy. So again, I am not excusing what happened last night with Cam Akers. It's definitely concerning. It is not something that I wanted to see out of him, but I am not going to offload the guy for nothing, right? I'm not going to sell him for absolutely nothing. I'm also not going to buy him either. So this is not a buy low take. I'm not saying go buy Cam Akers low unless the opposing manager is just giving him away. I would probably just hold. If you have Cam Akers, hold him for a few weeks, see what happens, because we can't base everything off of week one. We can't base the rest of the season's usage off of week one. But for those of you guys that have Darrell Henderson, and I actually do have him in my home league, I passed on Cam Akers at the 311. I took DJ Moore, and instead I drafted Darrell Henderson in the late round. So not only did I hedge my Dalvin Cook bet in that league, I also hedged my Cam Akers bet as well by drafting Darrell Henderson. So if you have Darrell Henderson, probably good news for you, but bad news if you drafted Cam Akers. Just hold for now. We'll see what happens going forward. And finally, at number 24, we have Dameon Pierce. I don't expect this to be a great game for the Texans offense, but it's week one. Anything can happen. Spot number 24 was between Dameon Pierce and David Montgomery as my RB24 on the week. But both guys are probably going to be in bad game scripts, and I trust Dameon Pierce as a player a little bit more, which is weird to say about a rookie, to be more efficient on his touches. And I also think the Texans are just a better team than the Chicago Bears, and this game might be a little closer because it's a divisional matchup. So I like Dameon Pierce as the RB24 this week. Again, this video will be a little bit shorter than the RB videos will be going forward, but the reason for that is that we don't really have any usage to talk about. So going forward, I will try and break down the usage of pretty much every backfield. I'll break down my top 24 rankings each week, and at the end of the top 24, we'll break down any other relevant usage that happens. But because we haven't seen any games yet, there's no relevant usage to talk about. So if you guys have any start-sit questions, leave them down below. Of course, like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you want full access to all of our rankings, weekly rankings, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, all that stuff. Dynasty rankings will be updated periodically throughout the season as well. Those are available down below in the pinned comment, either on Patreon, in the Ladster or Tone Setter tier, or free with an Underdog sign up, a new Underdog sign up for those of you guys that have not signed up yet. Using the promo code FSE, you'll get 100% match back on whenever you deposit. So if you put in, $50, you'll get 100 on the site to play with. That's a lot of pick'ems that you can do. And as a free gift, you'll get our rankings for each week, and you'll also get our Dynasty Rankings Manifesto for free. So appreciate you guys for the support. Peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.